Hey, welcome back to A-Aron Reacts. And I get the feeling this is going to be a tough one because this came as part of a 2-song request for quite a few Buy Me a Coffees from Orlev. So thank you, Orlev. For Asaf Avidan, I already reacted to the first one. This is the second one. And in that request, Orlev said, different pulses, which is what I'm reacting to. Here was written after his horse jumped off a cliff as a pack of wolves chased it to its death. That's tough. So I get the feeling this is going to be a tough one. But without further ado, let's get to it. I do have the lyrics up if I need them. So yeah. I'll pause since not a lot is happening. I don't want to say nothing's happening, but not a lot is happening. He looks like he's about to sing. It's been several reactions I've done since I've actually listened to Asaf with the looping setup. So it's interesting that that's where I got started, my first reaction to him, and the first couple actually, thinking that's essentially all he did. Not that that's a bad thing, but that's, essentially how he recorded. And it's been, I don't know, maybe 6 reactions that I've done where he hasn't done that looping setup, and now we are back here again. So this should be really interesting.
My life is like a wound. I scratch so I can bleed.
Oh,
Regurgitate my words. I rise so I can feed, and death grows like a tree that's planted in my chest. Its roots are at my feet. I walk so it won't rest.
Oh my gosh, it gave me anguish.
I try to push the collars through prison back to white, to sink our different pulses into a blinding light. If love is not the key, if love is not a key,
Ooh.
I hope that I can find a place where it could be.
Jeez. That, so not only does he sound fantastic, but just that super strong vibrato that he, adds kind of at the end of these, which I learned that, Asaf came to many of you via way of recommendation from Ren. And we see that with Ren's voice a lot, actually, where he'll add that really thick, fast vibrato towards the tail end of things. We see that here with Asaf. And it's not the first time I've seen it, but I don't know that I've actually commented on it before. But it's so strong here. It's so strong here.
A place where it could be.
Right there. Right?
A place where it could be. I know that in your heart there is an answer to a question, and I'm not as yet aware that I've asked. And if that tree hadn't drawn my tears, I would have let them cry for all the years that I, Lord, have let them pass. Say, oh,
Yeah.
baby,
Wow.
I said, babe, I am yours. I said, babe, I am yours. And I said, babe, I am yours. Babe, I am yours. Sweet babe, I am yours. Babe, I am. Babe, I am.
I love his choice of the instrumentation here, where he's got kind of the vocal ahs as the voice, just continuing to, to continue to create that message of, just shouting out, letting it all out, pouring out the heart and soul. Interesting. Did he just wipe tears off? We saw some kind of wiping off here, or just brushing. Might have just been sweat. My gosh, what a talent. Like, seriously, what he's able to do is just unreal. And just the sounds that he's creating, obviously a lot of it is synthetic sounds, but still, just so beautiful. All right, I'm going to pause here for just a minute. Okay, so I actually paused for a little bit here, and I tried to organize my thoughts. So you do want to stick around, because I've got a lot to say about this, both musically. We're going to talk a little bit about what he's doing musically, as well as with the lyrics and the meaning and the way he's delivering this, right? So for starters, and I do have some notes, so you're going to see me reading some of my notes from the screen here as we go through this, right? Musically, one of the most simplest songs you could have in terms of, chordal structure and harmonic structure, essentially, right? Ultimately, he's going back and forth between two chords through almost all of it, right? D minor, B flat major. And what's interesting is those can essentially, it's a lot of the same notes. And in fact, D minor, you could ultimately play the same with the B flat major if you add a seventh, which is a common scenario. So it sounds like it's going back and forth, and it sounds a lot the same. So I'm going to play that so you can just kind of hear that in a minute, so you can hear it just creates this continuity because we're not changing, we're not switching it up. What's interesting though is that 2 points, I believe, if I got that correct, he adds an additional chord and it gives a little bit of change, which is the first time he goes into the chorus. Again, I'll demonstrate this because I want you to hear where he changes it up. Even if you don't understand the chords being used, that's fine. I'm not trying to get technical on you. And then another place he does it where he doesn't actually really say much of anything. He just lets out some emotions. So it's interesting the choice where he does that, right? So let's start with the beginning where you could first of all kind of hear the difference between those two chords, but also it sounds very similar.
And death grows like a
Yeah,
tree.
so it's just back and forth.
Fast climbing my
So they
chest.
sound very similar to each other.
Its roots are at my feet. I walk so
Right? Okay, I'll point out when, but I want you to hear it. Maybe we'll go back and listen to it a second time, where he changes it up, right? As he's going into the chorus, and you can hear how it sets up that chorus. Your ear hears something different. So now you're a little bit off, and so now you really pay attention. Beautifully, beautifully done. Okay, so you hear the two chords back and forth there.
Its roots are at my feet. I walk so it
All right, here it comes. Listen. It changes up. Now here comes the chorus. He set it up. You're listening. Beautiful. And it's just, he's just letting it out. And then there's a second time here, so let me get to that one. Okay, here's the second one. Now listen to the lyrics as he does this, because it is not an accident, right? He says, and if love is not the key, and when I talk more about the lyrics, we'll unpack this more, but if love is not the key, if love is not a key, I hope that I can find a place where it could be. And then he switches up the chords again, and he just kind of lets out just this emotion, which isn't even any lyrics.
If love is not the key, if love is not a key, I hope that I can
Now listen.
find a place where it could
Here it comes.
be. La, la, la,
La 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 la. He doesn't even say anything there. He's just letting it out. Just letting the emotions. So it's really interesting that he chooses those couple places to change up the chords, and you can hear the impact of that. It sounds different. You're on the alert, right? First, as he prepares you for the chorus, oh baby, I am lost, right? And then when he says, I hope I could find a place where it could be, prior to saying that I know that in your heart there is an answer to a question, right? Yeah, I mean, in analyzing these lyrics, this is definitely tough. I can't imagine what he was going through, dealing with that, and probably beating himself up about what the horse was going through, and the heart pounding and racing, and to his tragic death. And I think this song captures it. It's visceral. It's tragic. He's dealing with grief. He's dealing with loss, emotion. He's struggling with existential meaning in existence. He's struggling with love, chaos. There's so many themes wound in here, right? And so he starts off with, my life is like a wound I scratch so I can bleed, right? Regurgitate my words I write so I can feed. So, the wound here, I feel like, is the trauma itself. The pain of witnessing, the horse's death. And scratching it suggests like it's inability to heal. It's opening it up. It's opening it up, and the bleeding comes out, right? he doesn't have a choice but to revisit it because it's constantly there and haunting him. And then writing becomes a way of dealing with it, of coping, right? It's a mechanism of survival where he says, regurgitate my words, I write so I can feed. And then he continues, and death grows like a tree that's planted in my chest. Its roots are at my feet. I walk so it won't rest. So it's this inescapability of death, right? Not just that it occurred, but it's like it's a living thing with the roots at my feet. As I take every step, it's constantly there. It's like a tree that's planted in my chest. It's deep. It's here. It's not going anywhere. And then he says, oh, baby, I am lost. And he repeats that throughout. That's what I call the chorus. I don't know if that's essentially what it's intended, but, it is a chorus. And I have a lot of notes here as it relates to baby, because I feel like that term, which is typically a term of endearment, does contrast a lot of this to me and really made me think about, what is its greater meaning? And I have several different possible interpretations of that, right? So, for one, maybe he is actually trying to find comfort and solace in his companion partner. And that baby is a call to that person, right? So that certainly, could be a romantic or a close companion, right? So he says, baby, I'm lost. And so, we know he is emotionally lost and maybe even vulnerable. So it's like he's in that scenario, he's kind of confessing to his partner or romantic person, right? Reaching out for a connection. The next one is interesting interpretation, I guess, is, what if he's actually doing it to himself? Self-reflecting, right? Maybe as a way of comforting himself. Grief tends to trigger a need for safety, security. And, by saying, oh, baby, maybe it helps cope with that. I kept thinking about, oh, baby, oh, no, oh, right. Like when somebody's dealing with something like, oh, gosh, please, no. And some people might even say, oh, baby, or something to that effect. So there is that possible interpretation here. Another one that, was the most natural at first to me, I'm not sure if it is it, but also, but he absolutely could be referring to the horse itself. Maybe its name was Baby, and probably some of you know this, I just haven't researched, but maybe it could have been a term of endearment, not romantically, of course, but, from, a pet name, if you will, right? Like, especially if it was little or he didn't have it or raised it since it was little, he could certainly refer to it as Baby. So, that's certainly the case. And just wailing out, I'm lost basically without you. Now you're gone, like, right? And then the other thought process I had, and I'm not quite sure how to create this a little bit more tangibly other than to say that it's a disconnect from some of the greater overarching themes, right? Existentiality, mortality, right? The cold, the cold nature of some of this and so forth. And maybe this term baby is to kind of personalize it more, to bring it down to earth more, to create that contrast, right? To deliberately create that, as well as potentially demonstrate his smallness in dealing with that cruel grief and death and so forth. Maybe it makes it more human, more intimate, etc. So, I don't quite know exactly which of those it is. It could be any of them. It could be all of them. It could be something else. It could just be literally just how he's feeling and maybe it's none of those, right? Maybe it just threw it in because it seemed to make sense to him. But, that is kind of a recurring theme. And again, we heard the chords change there for the first time he does that. And then he says, I try to push the colors through a prism back to white, right? So a prism, is that shape that when you shine light through it was kind of fractured. And I think he's kind of showing that, the fractured nature of grief and reality after witnessing something so brutal. And he's trying to put it back together. He's trying to reverse the color, that reflection into a more blank slate, something more innocent, something more pure. Now, the other thing that I saw was, just the name of the song and the lyrics to sync our different pulses into a blinding light. And that's especially haunting when you consider that the gallop of the horse and the pulses and the thought process from the perspective of the horse of, its heartbeat and being panicked and being chased by wolves and, essentially having to end its life potentially even mid-gallop as it was, going off the cliff. And how does that merge into his own, different pulses? It's really fascinating when you think about all that. And this was hard, right? And again, this is what led to that second, harmonic structure we talked about, the second chordal deviation. And if love is not the key, if love is not a key, I hope that I could find a place where it could be, right? So he's searching for some kind of meaning in all of this, or salvation in this cruel reality. And he would like to believe that love is the answer, whether it's turning towards his romantic lover, or whether it's holding on to the love that he had for the horse and what, that horse meant for him and so forth. It's not clear, but, in any case, he had hoped that he could find some kind of comfort in love. But he's saying, if it's not meant to be, then basically, I hope I can find some place where it could be, whatever that may be. And again, then he just changes up the chord, but then just kind of la, 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 something to that effect, right? Just kind of lets it out. It's like he's breathing, he's handling it, right? And then there's kind of this bridge. I know that in your heart, there's an answer to a question, which I'm not as yet aware that I've asked, right? He's just trying to search for meaning in that loss, but not even sure what the right question is. That's tough, right? I'm just lost and I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to ask, where to start. And if that tree had not drunk my tears, I would have bled and cried for all the years that I alone. Yeah, I don't think there's much more other than just the final surrender, right? Oh, baby, I'm yours. So, I mean, this is deep. And again, his vocals and his lyrics, the delivery. I love the vocal and the instrumental kind of sectioned interlude towards the end. And he just let it play out. He took his time and he let it play out. But again, his playing was very simplistic, even with all of that. And the harmonic structure was quite simplistic. But his singing, his emotion, the lyrics, the complexity and what he's trying to convey, the greater societal implications, none of that was. Not even close, right? Just another beautiful one. Thanks again, Orla, for recommending this. I appreciate you and I appreciate all of you. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Consider joining us. Click that join button for this channel. Leave me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Regardless, I thank you very much. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.